Welcome everyone to another. I'm sorry, Charles. For a moment there, it's like, wait, which show is this? I was going to say Web Tools. Welcome everyone to another Marketing Momentum with Charles and Deborah. Hi,
Hi,
Charles.
everybody. Hi, Deborah.
Especially with all these conversations we've had with the Webinar Fusion Pro. Love how I worked
Right.
that in there.
Yeah,
And that's been
exactly.
and even today talking to, yes, I can talk and I'm not drunk, I promise. Dwayne Golden. And
Yeah.
we were talking to him, and it was like, okay, which show is this? Oh, this is a Social Web Cafe interview. And it's like, all right, I think Webinar Fusion Pro has crossed over into every show by this point.
Yeah, that's cool.
Uh-oh.
I'm here. We're good.
Okay, that is the second time I've done that this week. That's fun. I have to stop testing. You can put the YouTube. Did I do that to you last week? You put the YouTube in there and you watch the countdown. And I think that's so cool. It's like 10 minutes till we start, 9
Oh,
minutes,
yeah, that's
the whole thing.
right.
So I push it to watch the countdown because I'm easily amused. And then when we start the Hangout, it's playing. So then obviously it plays on the Hangout. So yes, that's twice now this week I've done that. Oh, okay. So back on topic.
Yeah.
On music marketing, we've been doing that for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I would let you actually brought up a book today on networking, which is a really key piece. And this sounds kind of random. I'm just going to throw this out there. But I was talking to a friend of mine, Phil Turner, and he talks about the 5 currencies, which is actually credited to someone else.
Yep.
So this is now where I'm paraphrasing someone who's paraphrasing. And if you know about that, Charles, I'll let you explain it. But, key pieces in there as far as, and I don't know what they refer to it as, the people in your life or engagement or networking, but that's one part of it. And then of course there's time and money, and I don't even know what the other 2 are offhand, but
Right. Yeah.
all of that obviously plays into music marketing. And I would imagine our daily, again, I'm not an expert on the 5 currencies. I'm fascinated by it because I can see how all 5 kind of interrelate, where you talk about you have more time to make money, or, if you have money, you can pay someone to do something. So they all affect each other.
They
And
do.
now that I'm babbling myself, I'm going to actually turn it over and let you comment because you probably know more about it than I do.
Yeah. Now, the book itself, I don't have a deep familiarity with the 5 currencies. One of the things that I have been talking about with, kind of the folks who are in the consulting area, right,
Mhm.
is there's a book that was written back in, I think it was, I don't know, maybe 2001 or 99. It's called Networking with the Affluent, right? By Dr.
That's
Thomas
big.
Stanley. Yeah.
That's a thick
and,
book.
and now this is a guy who wrote The Millionaire Next Door. You remember that? And so he was this professor, and he did this. He was a market. He did all these studies on who the affluent really were. And so when the book first came out, it was this thing about, well, these guys, they don't wear fancy watches, they don't have big fancy houses, they really have these really modest houses, they live modestly. So that book was a really big hit. He came back, he wrote another book. But what happened was, after that, he started writing books on how consultants and how people could learn how to deal with these people that he'd spent his life studying. That was his graduate work. He did all of his graduate research on affluent people, found out that most of them were self-employed business owners, right? So that if you're going to reach these people, you could not cold call them, you couldn't advertise to them, you had to come upon them a different way. And so, and that they would actually be the people who had the money to hire you. And so one of the things that he talked about in terms of networking with these people in this book was that he said that you sort of had to get in front of, you sort of had to know what the people who ran these associations. So in other words, you kind of find the association, and so you get in front of those people and find out what their tastes are. And that at some point, by bringing together other professionals and putting together an event and putting together the people that could really get them the information that they needed, that would give you that credibility with that person. So it was almost kind of like this really indirect strategy that kind of gets you in front of the people who had money to pay you. And so I kind of been thinking
Wow.
about that in light of, yeah, I mean, in light of, okay, so if I'm a musician, and again, I'm not musical, but I was trying to think, well, I know one of the deals is, and maybe you can address this a little bit, that if you're going to do something, and I know what happens with musicians, because you know, in talking to my friend who is a musician, you're often asked to do something for free for somebody. Yeah, you know, I right. And so, and there's always the dilemma as to whether or not, okay, if I do this free, am I devaluing what I bring to the table, first of all? But okay, if I decide to do it, is it going to lead to something else that will be paid? Is it going to lead to something that's significant? Not just, is it going to lead to something that, you know, I get a few dollars, right? Is it going to lead to something significant? And if so, yes, more than happy to do something free in front of the right people.
That's always the question on, it's like, it's not that you're unwilling to do things free, but it adds up in burnout. And it's like, oh my goodness, do I have any energy to do this? And is it going to turn into the next big break where we can stop doing the day job and go do what we love to do in music?
And so when someone approaches you, right, is that a sign that you kind of really evaluate that differently, as opposed to finding somebody who really needs what you have? So in other words, some guy approaches you, say, hey, you know, I know Deb, she does this jazz music. Hey, would you be willing to come to our you know, our shindig and be the musical attraction? And then at some point they say, well, that's not going to be a pay gig, but we're going to be getting a lot of exposure. What does that sound like to, you know, a jazz musician, right? What goes off in your head?
It sounds like they're taking advantage of me. I mean, I have to say that I love doing it anyway, so I probably would. I shouldn't say that where people can. I probably would do it for free just because I love going on stage. I mean, I go someplace. It's like Mike has to hold me back. He goes, "Yes, there's an open mic. You don't have to always gravitate to it." So I get a thrill out of it. But usually, it's like, okay, so you're trying to get this, you know, for free or not have to pay, because, you know, after we've had a few decades of experience, we start to realize, and I don't want to analyze how people spend their money at all, but what ends up
Right.
happening is like, and I don't know, maybe we're guilty of it too, whatever, but someone will say, I have absolutely no money to pay you. And then the next day you see them, it's like, oh, I had to have the soundboard. I went and paid $300. And they probably, you know, they're not even a sound engineer. They're just, and not to knock it, that musicians should have soundboards too, but did they really need the $300? And that's a cheap soundboard, by the way. But it's like,
Yeah.
and you couldn't pay me $50? You know, I don't mean to do the math, but when you see that, it's, and I think that's something we all have to be cautious of, even as the person asking for the favor, to say, if
Right.
it's something that we can somehow, if we can't monetize it, let's at least barter to a level that it's monetized, and an actual defined promotion. Like, if you do this, this is what I'm going to give you in return. And this has, you know, a certain value. Because otherwise people, they're going, if they have any kind of math skill, they're going to see something and say, oh, and you couldn't pay me $5, which isn't, you know, $5 is nothing, but people start to calculate that and they feel taken advantage of. And I think that's a really hard challenge.
Yeah. What in looking at what Dr. Stanley was talking about, you know, to kind of try to finish the thought that I went off on the tangent, which is, what can you do, or how do you, is there a way to kind of productize? And I know every musician is different, right, in terms of what they bring to the table, in terms of what they would do in order to earn money. Is there a way to be able to have something for sale for everybody? So in other words, is that something that you discover, right, in the process of putting yourself out there to sell stuff, or is that something that you come to the table with? So in other words, so as an information marketer, right, one of the things that have learned is, now if I go offline, I have to have something at every price level and in every venue for somebody to be able to buy, if I'm going to be able to survive, you know, as a person in this business opportunity space. That I have to have something for everybody to buy. Otherwise, you know, my time is wasted when I give it away for free. How do you think you can do that as a musician? Is there a way that you can bring something to the table at every price level, right, at every way, for somebody to be able to buy, whether it's your services, whether or not, or to buy your music, or to buy, you know, your creativity?
I think there is, and I've seen people do that. And sorry, I'm gonna mess with the camera just a little bit. Without bringing the mic in. Okay. That's not why you guys are watching. I think there is, and I've seen people do it with, especially if they have merchandising, or, you know, you get a t-shirt at this point, a mug, or, you know, a mouse pad. Well, although there's maybe not be music related beyond the music, or, you know, you go on the other end where it's like, I will come and I will write a song for you. I will do a performance for your family, you know, on the larger end. So, and I especially see that in crowdfunding where there's different price points. And I think it works really well with that model. For me personally, I got to a point, at first it was like, okay, how do I give this away for free? And other people were doing it, but it was like, now it's almost expected that you're giving away a free download for a newsletter subscription. Back when I was looking at this, it was, you know, it was kind of innovative. And I didn't want to do that because I was afraid it would cheapen the music. And I'm thinking, guys, it's like 99 cents on, you know, it's $1. That's not that much for one song. So I didn't do it for a while. Now I've gotten to a point, Charles, where I kind of basically, it's like, oh, you want a CD? Here you go. And I actually, on my, you know, my taxes, I'm treating that as promotional material rather than actually selling the CDs. And even when people say, well, here, I'll pay you, they hand you, you know, they hand you 5 because it's actually an EP, it's a just a little EP. And you're like, okay, now I got to remember to put that in a certain spot in my purse. And I've got, you know, I don't have the receipts with me. And, you know, oh, I got to mark this in my taxes to make sure I'm tracking income. And then I've got to pay the, you know, as far as the songwriters. And, you know, it's like, there's so much paperwork for someone just handing you, just that's easier to just hand them the CD and say, here you go. So unless you're like, you know, selling it at a gig. So I got to a point where I'm basically giving away the music for free. And then I'm monetizing by doing the marketing. But something, and it was certainly highlighted when we spoke to Dwayne this morning, and he has, you know, talented musical family, as you do, Charles, and talking about music. And he's like, and I didn't talk to him directly, actually Michael did. It's like, you've got to be doing music. You can't be like setting aside music. And I'm thinking, well, that's because I give away the music for free. So then 100% of my time is spent on making money. And it's like, whoa, how did we shift? So to get back to your question, I think there is a way to have something music wise at every price point, but don't do what I did, where you go so far on giving it away for free that you stop doing it because you have to somehow pay the bills.
So when the person, let's say, so now, whether it's a download or something that people like, and in information marketing, it's pretty easy. We're supposed to be trying to solve problems. But when you give away the download, what's the next step? Let's say for I come into your marketing funnel, or any musician's marketing funnel, what do you think that next step should be, right, to take me, the buyer, or me, the person who likes the music, into? What is some of the options that we sort of take that person to?
After like one song at a time, or maybe even a 3-pack song, and then pretty soon you're going to the whole album. Then you have bonus tracks, like maybe like I put the bonus tracks with my album on iTunes, which you obviously could get separately. So I re-released my EP with bonus tracks. So I don't know, that's somewhere between an EP and an LP or something. It's like 7 songs on the album. But you could,
Right, yeah.
you know, I could have chosen not to put it on iTunes and had it something where it's, you know, make it really like hard to get. Kind of like, what is it, the Irish potato famine or something, where they didn't like potatoes because they're too common. And then they made it like, wow, this is really special and hard to get. And then people started,
Right, yeah.
I don't know the whole story, but treat it like that, where the bonus tracks are really hard to get. Or maybe you have something from 20 years ago. Like that works really well if the, God forbid, with artists has passed. You can find something that no one's heard before. You know how everyone's hungry for something that doesn't exist. So that might be the next phase, is to give them something that no one has. And then at some point you can add, you know, photos in there, maybe a signed photo, a signed album. And then you can add more and more merchandise, or maybe there's a pack of like all the albums. I think it's tricky too, because Charles, you're mentioning as far as like info products and services are so much easier to market online.
They are.
Download this ebook, download, even for a service, you know, have an appointment with me at this time, we meet, Skype, Google Hangout, whatever. But when you get into music, it's not like you can send a t-shirt through the internet, you know? So that
Right,
gets
yeah.
a little tricky. And I think probably on that point, the local, like I don't really market to local. I tend to be much more global. So a lot of it's like the digital music. Um, or maybe a private session, or you can write a song for someone private, that kind of thing. But as far as the local, that would work, because it's like, hey, we can hook up here, we can have a special party, we can do a drawing for this. But global, it's so hard to market the merchandising on a global level without shipping it.
Is music still ultimately for a musician, right? Is it still, and I know we asked Madeline this question, is it still basically local? Has what has happened to you? Because I was reading an article about Taylor Swift, and not that I really follow her or anything, but what they said was that the uniqueness had so come out of what it is that she does in terms of music, that it sounded sort of like everything else that everybody else was doing, and that she was okay with this, but that when artists sort of do this, it really, in some ways, opens the door for indie artists to be able to really connect with people, to really do the kind of music people want. But I'm wondering whether or not that's all local. Is that kind of stuff, that connection place, local, as opposed to just over the internet?
I tend to be of the non-local thinking, and that isn't. Okay. I think that it's there locally, and I know Madeline does more, and she actually travels to different festivals, and there's a lot of people who do local. And I think if you're doing local, that works great. I mean, go with it, because then you're more likely to like pull people in for gigs. I know when I was doing it in Los Angeles, it's like the actual local place where I lived in the suburbs, I maybe only had 3 people that knew of me, but yet my local was a 40-minute drive down to Sunset, in Hollywood. And then I would have people coming, like, but no one crosses over the 405 except me, my husband. It's like the 405 freeway. It's like, oh, you're the west side or the east side. It's like, oh, that's just too far to drive to across the 405. But I actually, I had friends coming across the 405 to go see me, and they would drive further than the people that were local, like, for example, where I live. So it's like, what is your definition of local? I felt like in Los Angeles, it's more the local, and I just haven't done as many gigs there, but it's more the local for me was the Hollywood scene, because that's really where the fans were coming. And that's where people would, like, I had standing room only. They would pack it. It was the acoustic room of the Viper Room. It was packed. It's just a small area downstairs, but they were coming in, people I didn't know that were coming in, because the audience, who I was targeting was set well for Hollywood. But is that necessarily where I was every day? I was over in Santa Monica most of the time during the day, and I lived out in the suburbs. So, what is your definition of local? Maybe local is 6 hours away from where you're at, and you go there every 2 weeks,
Yeah. No, it's true. I guess, what comes back to is, I'm wondering whether or not that sentiment is sort of pie in the sky. Is it really that, because, I mean, you hear that, right? You hear that, well, all the music sounds the same. If I'm going to listen to stuff, I'm going to listen to an indie artist. But are you finding that? Are you finding people to come kind of to your music because, they're sort of tired of, all of the big names, all of the hype? And I'm probably a little different with jazz, because I think it seems like jazz musicians really try to be true to the art more so than pop music. But still, there's still that feel that when somebody's listening to somebody that they don't necessarily hear every day, that they're really getting the real thing.
I think there can be, and I don't know if it's just our progression through human life. I mean, I was just thinking as you were describing that our culture has changed as far as, now I do my shopping in Amazon. I even do the subscription to, Tide. Like, why bother going to the store and buy Tide? I can just get it from Amazon. I can subscribe to it, So
Right.
I have no problem. Madeline mentioned Stage It. Some of those were to watch a musician. I can kick back in my pajamas or less or whatever, and they can't see me, so I can sit and watch it. You don't have to get all dressed. Now, I still had a blast going to the Kiss concert, putting the stripper pole boots on and I was full. I promise it wasn't a stripper pole outfit, okay, I shouldn't say just the boots.
outfit,
Anyway,
right? Yeah.
yeah, okay. Anyway, there's still that fun of going out, but I wonder if people are partaking in the music, and that's where the global does work as far as watching it kind of, streaming or on demand with YouTube. And there's so much viewing YouTube that our culture of consuming music has definitely change. And as musicians, we've seen that because, we talked earlier, the only way you could get it is unless you wanted to sit by the radio and wait for your favorite song to come up. If you couldn't wait that long, you went and bought the album.
Right.
And
No,
that's
exactly.
definitely changed on that one. And I think I really got off track on your question, on your original question.
No, I think you're right on. And I guess maybe we could talk about this another week because we always seem like we come back to, and Google, and I know they changed, their terms to a subscription service and that whole thing. And I'm wondering if that's going to mean anything more, for folks who to be able to develop that following, to be able to get people to kind of like be right there, to kind of pay, to kind of get it. But the whole streaming phenomenon, right? Which I still think my intuition is that in terms of video, we're still not quite there where I'm going to be able to get the music. I don't know if I would pay for the video yet for music until it's really more robust, right? I mean, I still feel like if I'm going to buy music, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to own it, or, have it on my hard drive. And that could just be, our age and generation, right? But clearly though, things are going the way of subscription service. Clearly things are going the way of video and subscription service. Is that sort of like just the new frontier, or is that just the new reality that, as you said, a musician, in order to kind of get that connection, they're going to have to play, and they're going to sit in front of a computer screen, and they're going to have to be at the point where the bandwidth is such that they can send it upstream, and that the person can get it downstream at that level of quality that they feel like, yeah, this is really music.
I think we have to re-educate our culture to the extent, and I probably told the story already. A good friend of mine was putting together, like, we were going to do a long drive, and she put together a disc of a bunch of songs, and I'm sure many of us have done that, and I tend to be overly sensitive to the whole concept of pirating because I'm involved with a group from Hollywood that actually goes to Congress to protect the rights. And her comment was, well, musicians are rich enough. And it's like, no, actually, I know some big name musicians that, they have to do some other endorsements and things like that. They have the celebrity to do the endorsements, but actually it does cut into that. So I think we have to re-educate, because back when we were buying albums, you had something tangible. You want a t-shirt, you go to a concert, you get a t-shirt, you remember the experience, you're with your friend. I mean, everything had I pay this, I get this. There was a tangible element, or even a memory that was connected to the tangible item. But now it seems like, and one of the things that Ariel Hyatt teaches as far as with her music courses is, and I think she might have gotten it from someone else, I don't know, so I apologize if I'm misquoting, but it's, go for the 1,000 fans. And it's something that I should really capitalize on more, because Charles, when you mentioned jazz, one thing I find that either people will listen, and I get like feedback, you can run your music through, hey, give me feedback on this, and I'll listen to all the comments. Either people just aren't into jazz, so it's like, oh, whatever, and they just move on. Or the people that like it, like I get polarized responses. The people that love are like, oh my goodness, why are you? And I've had this, like, why are you doing marketing? You should be out there doing music. So people are either like, it's not my thing, or they love it. And I'm not meaning that to brag. I'm just saying that it's not like the pop music. We're like, oh, that's kind of catchy, and like right in the middle.
Right.
So especially in the jazz and those types of arts, and maybe some of the other music that isn't necessarily like pop is more mainstream. You can, and even, some hip hop and things that kind of hit that top 40 on these outer edge polarized type music, you really need to work with, because your fans tend to be, and that's what I found, more loyal. So the fans that really love my music are like sending me messages like, I was so depressed, I listened to your music, and all this. I really should capitalize on that, because going back to retraining our culture, it's like people need almost like the crowdfunding. And if you talked to me 3 years ago, I would have said, no, I need to pay for it myself. I'm not doing crowdfunding, but it's like you need to build up the 1,000 people that are like a part of your music family, your street team, that just really believe in your art. Because we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's not like I can say, oh, listening to my music is going to change your life and make you rich. Music doesn't have that kind of I'm going to change your life, and especially in this economy. So you build up the 1,000 fans that say, you know what, I just love what you do. I don't mind that I'm paying $25 for access to your YouTube streaming, because I'm not going to get the value on the technical end, because the
Right.
technical end isn't there on a YouTube streaming. It's going to be compressed, just mere fact of the
Right.
production.
Right.
So if people can just like pay money, understanding they're supporting the artist. Now, I really prefer the method that we had a few years ago where you get a tangible item over that one, because it feels kind of
Yeah.
like that charity, like come support me, sign up. But it seems like that would be a model that would support the musicians, because otherwise, Charles, I'm afraid that true musicians, especially with all of the ability to do sampling and I mean all the cool stuff we can do with keyboards and things like that. Michael read something that the percentage of people, for example, that can read music is going down. I
Yeah.
mean, we're going to lose the art of music if we don't
Yeah.
somehow support it.
Yeah, and you know, I'm thinking that again, and some of this I think you're right is peculiar to genre, right? And I think it seems as if people who listen to maybe classical, people listen to jazz, people listen to some of the particular genres of music, they probably tend to just like music.
Mhm.
So some of the things that would lend itself toward a more popular sound or things that you could kind of get away with without really being able to play, they're gonna know the difference because they just like music. Are we I guess the thing will be whether or not as we go forward those people are going to become less a part of the buying marketplace, because the people who the people who are buying music, those are going to be the people who I think like jazz and classical music for the sake of the art. People who are a little, and again, I mean, I don't, I don't like drawing lines right
Mhm.
along those lines, but it almost feels like folks who are coming along behind the people who like that kind of music, they're less willing to pay anyway. But the market is being shaped by those people, right? It's kind of
Yep.
like we're designing the marketplace, and I have really been, and I've been asking the question even inside of the business opportunity space where you and I are,
Mhm.
inside of business in general, where you're just talking about selling information and selling advice, whether or not it's valid to structure, even if the market is structured around those folks, the people who are really going to have the money and people who are going to connect with me, I don't know if they're gonna be those folks anyway. And so when I hear marketing advice, I'm thinking this advice to me sometimes is being structured around people who don't have money and who
Mhm.
don't want to pay for anything. But that's not everybody. And I'm not even sure if those people are going to be the people who I would want to have in my marketing funnel anyway. And I wonder if it's the same thing with music, especially with a genre like jazz or classical.
Well, and that's what, my category, like I said, when they arrive, they're really loyal, but it's basically baby boomers who enjoy jazz music. I mean, that's really the category. I get a few younger people. Mostly it's like, really? That's your mom? To my kids, it's like, no, that's not your mom. Oh, really? That's your mom. And it's more of it's a cool factor, but they're listening to the hip hop, they're listening to and the same stuff I listen to. That's what my kids the other day, I think I told you this, we were watching YouTube and it was like, oh, it's Axl Rose. And, they're like, but but you like jazz. I said, no, no, honey. I sing jazz. I like a lot of different kinds of
Right,
music.
right.
I consume different music, but yeah, I don't sing like Axl Rose, and I probably couldn't even if I wanted to. But yeah, you're right. I think the group of people, and there's almost like three. There's this group of like more our generation. We grew up with the tangible items and so forth, and then there's that category. I think probably in between that are what is that? I don't even know what generation that is, that are coming into where they've got jobs, they have the money. And then there's that younger generation, they don't have money, but they're definitely they're the buying market in the future. Because let's face it, eventually baby boomers are going to not be around. They're going to, and they're, so yeah, it's got to take a cultural shift before, like I said before music's basically flushed down the toilet and gone as far as, and I don't mean, there's all kinds of music. I'm entertained by all of it, but as far as the art of music.
Yeah, and I think, and that's what I think more than anything when I look at, we talked about networking here at the beginning. terms of strategy, right, and getting, getting in front of people, I'm beginning to feel like, okay, I can ignore the conventional wisdom, not because I know everything, right? Not because they're wrong, I'm right, but because I don't know if I want those people, right? I don't know. So if a person who reads one of those kind of headlines, so those headlines like in Facebook, the ones where you say, um, you know, you'll never believe what happened and what happens next will shock you. All those kind of headlines.
Do you
I don't have
click
a
on them?
problem with those. I don't. I don't. So
Okay,
they don't
good for
attack.
you.
They don't attract me. Right? Yeah. You see,
I try not to
those
click
things
on
don't.
them because of that reason. It's like they want me to click on it, so I'm not going to click on it. And then every once in a while, probably 1 out of 5, it's like, just find out what it is because it works.
Right.
It
Nobody
should
will ever
work.
know.
Yeah, exactly. Now they do, but
Right. Yeah. But I mean, but really, so I know those work, but they don't necessarily work on me. And so if that's the case, then that means that some of the conventional wisdom that's out there with people that I would really want to sell to anyway doesn't necessarily, it's not gonna hurt me not to do a lot of this stuff that people are saying. Again, not because I'm smarter, but just because some of those people don't have money, like you said. I mean, they just don't have money. They don't have the kind of money to hire me or pay me, right, the way I'd want to. And I wonder if the same thing is true in some cases when it comes to music. Um, I think that a lot of those services like Spotify and all the others, I have Rhapsody, right? We have Rhapsody, and I think we pay $10 a month. And really, and I have Rhapsody because when it started out, interestingly, you could download the MP3 onto your hard drive. And I remember getting this email from them saying, we're going to change the whole thing. And all these MP3s that you have, they're not going to work anymore. And then they sent another email years later saying, don't worry about it. Just keep them. They'll work,
music
And,
licensing at its best.
right. Yes. DRM what, And so that says to me that as a consumer of music, I'm in a category at this point that they're not accounting for. They're assuming I like Spotify. They're assuming I won't buy music. They're assuming that because I don't want CDs, I won't buy. It's not true. I'll pay for, you and I have a mutual friend. Her name is Donna. I used to kind of have her on my Twitter feed, and I would ask her every so often. I said, "Do you know something good gospel jazz?" Right? Because
Oh
I
man,
just
I
want to
gotta check
listen
in
to it.
with Donna. Oh, I'm sorry, I got all excited.
And
Yeah, she's the one that,
we should probably have her on the call.
oh, we should. She's the one that gave me the name Lady D.
Oh, really? That's right.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we gotta ask her to.
yeah. Uh, and what she told, that recommendation, I listened to it one time. I bought it, right? And so that's not supposed to happen I knew what I wanted, right? I just sort of asked about it, but nobody's accounting for me as a consumer. And there's a
Right.
lot of me out there, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of me out there who like music. And just because nobody's talking about us doesn't mean we don't exist. And I don't know if the same if the musicians all know about us who would buy the stuff we like if they figure out how to find us.
See, I think, and you just right there, if they figure out how to find us, because I think, our generation, we tend to figure out how to find them as far as, hey, I want the CD, I'm gonna go buy it. We just do that without pomp and circumstance. So it's like, not that we're trying to be quiet about, we're just going about business like we always have. And so I think that musicians are being trained for the, like you said, the people that watch or listen to Spotify and all these different services. So I think you pegged it as far as that's the audience that exists, and they don't even know that there's this it's almost like, now I'm not calling us bugs, but like pick up the rock. It's like, oh my goodness, there's this whole other population that we didn't know about that's been existing over here in the underground, or whatever. That's a really good point.
And it's not even, and it's not that I'm rich, but if I got a few bucks in my pocket, and if I want if I want an album, if I want 3 songs, I'll buy them. I will buy them. And my wife is that way. Now my kids are not, but we're that way. And so, I wonder, and I know I can see that same parallel in what we do in information marketing. I can see the very same parallel when it comes to selling in the business opportunity space, because when if I were to do a training here in Harrisburg, I've just figured out I don't have to talk to people that are going to be into some of the stuff on Facebook. I can just talk to people like me who are looking for a business opportunity. And there are a lot of people out there who have nobody talking to them.
We should be talking to them. We should go find them and talk to them.
Right.
Wow. A lot of food for thought on there. I think there's whole, like you said, there's whole pockets of people that are being missed. And it's a lesson to all of us that we shouldn't assume that everybody thinks like we think. Some of us have the advantage, we think like we think, and then we have kids, and it may be like, goodness sakes, what are they thinking? But at least we have that view into, it's like, wow, they're thinking something. Or like my husband and I always tease our kids. It's like, okay, call your friend. I didn't hear you talking. Not that I'm eavesdropping, but I didn't hear I texted him. That's a text. That's not a call.
Right. You did not talk to them. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I talked to him text. Okay, all right. I get it. Whatever. Break up by text, whatever, But yeah, it's a whole nother call. And I don't know what the answer is for musicians. Kind of bring this back as far as the whole. I think networking is really key, like what you said at the very beginning. To really learn how to engage with people, no matter what your industry is, whether you're a musician offering services, because I think it's really simple. If we haven't really evolved that much since caveman days. And not that I was back there, but when it comes down to it, we all look for love, we look for trust, we look for hope, we look for we want relationship with other human beings. I mean, I suppose there are some people that are bona fide hermits that want no contact, but I think the majority of us, we're like a little pack. We somehow want to relate to other people. And if we can remember that in no matter what generation we are, and how to relate to people, and even relate to people that are not to break them into different labels, like you said, as far as different generation, different ways of looking at things, and different lifespan development, different points in life, to learn how to connect. It seems like that would help us no matter what niche we're in.
Yep. Yeah. And there are people who will buy.
We just need to find them. Well, thank you, Charles. It's always stimulating, and I always think of like new ideas after we chat. So this is great to be able to do it live, so other people can be stimulated and think of new ideas.
Yeah, right on.
And love to talk some more sometime, because I'm like so stuck on the Webinar Fusion Pro. I just think that's a game changer. So, and guys, anyone watching this, look forward to. Let's see, I think it's June 2nd on Social Cafe. Charles will be joining us, and we will be talking about Webinar Fusion Pro. So if you want to know what it is that I keep referencing on that one, that probably has nothing to do directly with marketing momentum, except that it's wonderful Charles. So we'll show up on that.
I appreciate that. So, yeah, man, right. maybe we should go after, see if we can try to convince Donna to come on here.
Yes. Yeah, we should talk offline about who wants to, so we don't both pounce on her at the same time. But I haven't talked to her for a while, but it'd be excellent to have. That lady knows jazz. She's well, not. I mean, she knows a lot of things. Not that she's just limited to jazz, but she's very intelligent and engaging lady. So that'd be wonderful to have her on.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, thanks all. Thanks, Charles.
No, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Deb. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right.